And there's this thing that I came up with a long time ago, where notes jump rather than stand still. And so it's got like tons of, it's got a bunch of tables that remap how all the different notes work. And there's like 256 of these. And then there's 8 layers of possibilities that each note can do. And it's got echoing, it's got these are all the different functions that can be applied to the different notes.
Nice.
And so like so this is like echo. So you do like all kinds of, I can do octave shifting.
That's pretty sweet. So someone would use your equipment or your software to compose with?
Yeah. So it's got like, you can like play with different sounds. There's like 256 maps to select from here. Like shift by octave, shift by quantities of channels, scales. There's like 256 scales to select from, and play with all kinds of different. Do stuff like. It's got a multi-track sequencer.
So you can create all sorts of different voices to play around with.
It's got 256 output voices that can simultaneously be working with 16, like right now I'm just playing through one synthesizer module. Yeah, and it's got scores, and here, let's see. Just give you an idea of some of the,
So then a lot of musicians would buy this to produce.
Yeah, the idea is to really open up how people play their instruments, so in way more creative ways than anyone ever has before. As far as the instrument surface themselves is concerned. And some of it can get that module right here, the rolling one.
Oh yeah.
Just stuff like that. And the website is No Weaver. Yeah.
This is cool music.
Screenshots.
Yeah, I like this.
This is
Sell the package for
$250.
Wow, that's pretty good.
this has a hit song written all over it. If you just put lyrics to this, and
So this is like the main window. There's a way to quickly navigate as people are playing. You hit one note and it comes up, and then you select different things on the fly. The idea is to make it the most on the fly as possible. You know, so.
Do you have a lot of users, like registered
None.
users?
It's not out yet. It basically has never come out.
Oh, okay.
Each node can get sent to multiple layers, and here's turn the layers on and off, and you split by velocity. By
Did you
by
do the
twos,
coding
threes,
for all
fours.
this?
Yeah, I did the coding. Here's a.
Nice.
It also works with guitar stuff.
What did you write it in?
C.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's my favorite language.
Oh, is it? Yeah. Yeah.
I've been learning the underlying structures of the online data from HTML to style sheets to XML for data representation.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
It's kind of required for higher levels of technical writing.
Yeah.
This thing's really great. I appreciate the demo. I like that.
Yeah. And yeah.
That's the one thing I neglected was musical training, and I'll get to it. I'm not slowing down yet, so I want to get a keyboard or something like this, right, that I can sit down and just play around with and learn how to play.
Yeah, and what we can do is like take scales. Yeah, just basically do anything with scales and on the fly change them and make it just so only the white notes do certain things or only the black notes or
Right.
there's all kinds of stuff. So, and it goes on and on.
Yeah.
So,
That's really cool.
yeah.
Clay would love
Nice
this.
setup.
Thanks.
So you got a scope over there.
Yeah.
2445.
Yeah.
You know, we always told HP don't try to do scopes, Tectonics doesn't.
Yeah. Oh, really?
2230. Yeah, I've used that.
5036.
36,
Oh, yeah.
okay, yeah, I've used.
Then there's, let's see. Yeah. Well, there's a bunch of stuff.
Well, how long have you
And then
been
the
working on
help
this?
system, I did the help like from scratch. And
When did-
and it's like one big text file, and I embedded different characters to make different colors.
Nice.
And, yeah.
When did you conceive of this?
Well, the basic idea was like what 23, 24 years ago,
Yeah.
and
Technology's definitely caught up with what you're wanting to do as well.
yeah.
I mean, with computers to the speed that they're at, you would have never guessed 20 years ago.
Oh yeah. So that's not. So like so like this section's like shifting up and down, and these move it. So like.
Oh, interesting.
Except that I don't know why it's not. So I'm at the point now where I'm going to be filling the tables in and with stuff. So the demos are like bam, boom, boom, like this. But I'm not. They're not in yet.
Right. You have people that have played around with it. And
I have a few people. Yeah. I don't. That's really weird. I don't know why it's not working. Yeah, so it's a big table-driven thing. It's a huge router. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, well, I started out a few years ago just figuring out where middle C was in the piano.
Oh, yeah.
So that's about the level that I've been playing with.
Well.
So this stuff's amazing.
Oh, I know what's going on here. Scales. There we go. Okay. Imagine this being 0 plus 1 plus 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12. Now, I never liked the regular keyboard because it's like this whole grouping of 5 and 7 just really screws everything up. And it's very complicated. And
Yeah, I thought so.
yeah, and everything, and there's 12 sets of things to learn in 12 different keys, starting with C, C sharp, D, and so this kind of like makes it so that people can, and then apply scales, like, well, like for instance, blues scales, like a blues scale.
I'm pretty talented that way. You never know. Find a way.
Yeah, yeah, and like stuff like that, like even stuff like major, minor, seventh. So the idea is to make it so that someone can coherently weave through different things and come up with stuff. So.
Hence, Note Weaver.
Hence Note Weaver, yeah. Yeah. So.
Well, the price is great for what you're getting on this thing. I mean, it's really an amazing price.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is get rid of the license key's gone, all the license, so it's .exe file and anyone can copy it and put it anywhere, so with the idea being that lots of people will copy it and spread it around the internet, it'll become popular.
Viral marketing. Yeah.
Viral.
And then you plan on just charging for advertising on your site or other like things that you
No,
write
it's going to
go
cost
on?
$250, and anyone that's doing that is doing it illegally, and they're going to be agreeing to a licensing agreement. If they have an illegal copy, they have an illegal copy.
Oh, I thought you said the licensing agreement's gone.
No, the license key is gone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be like the old days where things you put it on as many machines as possible, or as one wants, and
Right.
so
If you want a legitimate copy, it has to be licensed.
yeah.
Well, there's a lot of
Yeah.
instructions, a lot of trainings that you could do here to charge for as well, as far
Yeah.
as getting how to use it.
Yeah.
Plus things you could write to show different features and things that can't be done with other software.
Yeah, and also like for music theory training, like if someone's a music instructor, if they want to say, this is this, so in a matter of, they can sit there and play with scales and for demoing in their class, and this is what this scale sounds like, this is what this scale sounds like, blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great education tool.
Yeah. So that'd be real fast to create something like that. So yeah.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah. So how you been?
I've been doing well. Before I get to me, this is only part of what you do, right? So, I mean, this is like your professional work, but when we've been on the radio show, you've talked about keys to the ultimate freedom and the whole your spiritual background, basically.
Oh, like squish dangling? Have I told you about squish dangling?
I don't think so, but you're telling me about the kind of investigations you've done into dissolving the mind, dissolving thoughts, and I mean, how did you get into? This is a pretty major effort itself. How did you get into the spiritual side simultaneously?
Well, Jonas turned us on to a bunch of teachers and stuff that taught
Okay.
the same kind of stuff.
Well, the other thing too is that creativity and spirituality are basically the same.
Yeah.
They both come from the heart, and so creative people will be really open to deeper meanings of things. Used to not processing everything with their mind.
From a feeling standpoint, right now,
Mm-hmm.
I've just been taking a break from this,
Yeah.
and because there's thoughts and feelings like I hate this fucking shit. You know, God, I fucking. Because I got, I'd say probably like 25,000 hours into this project.
Yeah.
And there's so many layers so basically I do this thing where I imagine and I'm just about to sit down and start coding or something, or start filling some tables in or whatever, and just let any thoughts that come up, any feelings come up, and work through them, because I think that there's like this, it's also like it feels like there's this ebb and flow to creativity or whatever maybe, and once one goes real far in one direction and builds up a bunch of crap about it, then only when it swings all the way back, and kind of like birth and death, like with birth there's, you know, go, and then death is like this unwinding of energy, this relaxing, and kind of like gathering a new breath of fresh air, and
like breathing.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
breathing. So lately I've had to do a bunch of that kind of crap.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
because it's been like trying to, you know, pulling teeth, trying to sit down and write code sometimes.
Yeah.
Recently and stuff. So
I was 3 years into my PhD in transpersonal psychology before I had my own transformative experience that required a leave of absence to come to terms with.
really,
So yeah, I definitely know where you're coming from on that.
really, wow.
So yeah, it's,
So I mean, do you?
One thing I came up with, I was sick and I was in bed.
Yeah.
And there's this thing, I think I'm going to put a video on the web about it. It's a technique I call squish dangling.
Okay. So what is squish dangling?
I'll tell you what squish dangling is. Have you ever had a good massage?
Yeah.
Either of you?
Mm-hmm.
You know how like massages basically massage the crap out of feelings and, you know,
Right.
stress and
Yeah.
all that out of muscles.
Yeah.
So I was laying in bed and I started arching my back, and I realized I could like squish the inner muscles together, not unlike deep tissue massage, with the idea being like squishing them together gently for anyone that's watching this, because it could theoretically be dangerous if someone like squished too much. I think too fast. So the idea is to like squish. It's kind of like yoga, where yoga is real stretchy. This is more squishy. So the idea is to imagine being a like buoyant point of consciousness, tensionless consciousness, and exhaustively dangle anything that's not that from that. Like squish.
Well, it's like
So-
rainwater dripping off something, and
It's like
just,
rain-
just being one of those, being an umbrella basically, and letting rainwater letting the emotions flow off of you and go into the ether of existence.
Yeah, to rebalance for that pent up, all that tons of eons of pent up energy to be recapitulate. I don't know if that's the correct word, but to just basically balance.
Well,
out, balance out to nothing.
Are you transforming it, or are you just letting go of it?
Feeling it all the way, diving right into the heart of it, letting it completely win. Let's say.
It's like you're playing an air guitar.
Like that, until there's absolutely no tension anymore on any thought for any reason. And then I always also mock up these worst case scenarios and best case scenarios. I attempt to and discharge all that. The idea is to just get to an absolutely relaxed place, and then from that there's all that energy back again, and it's kind of like being reborn, or becoming like a baby is like this has this all this, doesn't have all this baggage yet, or tons of it.
Yeah.
So that's the idea, and it's just so if you're gonna record something, that's the most I can think of with recording. I think it's a pretty. And then sometimes I just grab a pillow in bed and I just squish go like this and put the pillow right here. Because it's like feels like for me it feels like almost all of it's in my neck and shoulders. You too?
Well,
Is that what you
I mean,
find?
in the past, certainly.
In the past? I mean,
Yeah, what you're talking about too, which is interesting to me, is I'm a huge believer in mind-body integration because, like doing a keto or even like certain forms of dance, Tai Chi, because if you don't, your body holds attachments. So once your mind is completely clean and clear, your body still has all these attachments. Just like the way I'll explain to some people is if you're depressed, your shoulders are going to roll forward and your chest is going to be kind of sunken in, like symbolically protecting your heart. And your muscles will form that way. It's like an emotional stabilizer. So if your pattern of emotionality isn't comfortable, your body is going to represent that. And even if you wake up in the morning and feel different, your body's going to bring you back into what's familiar because it has formed to this emotionality, these patterns of emotion. So what you're talking about is releasing on those patterns and realigning your body, which I think is pretty cool.
yeah. And then evidently people get to the point where on final release or whatever, one relaxes and then one becomes everything and everyone. Because there's no more sense of an I left that's identified with being a body and in a body anymore.
True.
Or having ever been born or any of that, having anything. That's one kind of like,
Well, everything you're describing to me is a physical analog of Buddhism.
Well, it's
And-
all a
and-
physical analog of everything if you look at it. It's
Well,
just
true.
different approaches.
But I mean, I've talked with John here. He's explained to me dropping the positive, dropping the negative, and I think I understand what that means.
Unification,
Yeah, unification of self. And then the Buddhist sense of anatta, no self. I mean, all those concepts come exactly from what you're describing in terms of the physical practice.
Well, you reach a point where there is no I. You can look inside and it's just empty, but it's also filled with this sense of love or creativity, intuition, whatever you want to call it. And that expansiveness is just almost beyond description.
yeah.
And people get a taste of it, and that's what lets them know they're on a good path. And eventually, you can exist in that space. And it's a little odd to get used to, but once you get there, it's just like, wow, this is so cool. It took so much effort to maintain all this negative energy and all this difficult energy I had before. And when I let go of it, now all of a sudden everything's simple. And why is everybody putting so much energy into making their life difficult?
Yeah.
So it's it's pretty fascinating. But what's
So
that? Your
has like really wide open intuition opened up for you or whatever?
Yeah.
And what's that like? I mean, I'm not there yet. I mean, because there's
I feel things. You know, the best way that I've been able to explain it is like through the difference in sense of smell between a person and a dog. A person has about 10 million olfactory nerves, and a dog has 220 million. So if we walk into a kitchen and there's chili cooking, we smell chili. Where a dog goes into the kitchen and they smell the onions, the spices, the chili, the vegetables, and they smell each individual component. So that's what the broader intuition is like, is you see all the components. It isn't just some one intuitive sense. There's like almost an infinite number of components that go into that, and you can go in and look at each one of them. So it's really cool, and what you have to do is to bring in that level of awareness. You have to slow the mind down to where it's not constantly just spinning with one thought after another, which again, that's like what Buddhism is to slow the mind down and find that tiniest of spaces in between thoughts, and that's where all the magic is. So the more
it's also relaxing, isn't it? Relaxing.
Well, it is.
And
Yeah.
opening up the.
But eventually, you end up in like for myself, I haven't had a thought I've been unaware of like I've never been lost in thought. Says, oh, I was thinking about this or that. That hasn't happened to me in probably 3 or 4 years. So every thought that comes in, I'm aware of it. And if somebody's thinking thousands of thoughts a day, it would just wear them out.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have any time to do anything but would be aware of some small fraction of their thoughts.
Okay, so it came, Paul.
Oh, good.
Sorry.
Oh, good. Those don't look too big. Good.
So when you
Yeah,
use
yeah,
your
they're
mind like a tool instead of as the definer of yourself, then you're perfectly aligned and you're intellectually much more powerful than you were before because you're not overdriving your physical system anymore. So yeah, I like that term that you used in what you were describing as far as
squished angling.
Squished angling. Yeah, I mean I can see there's a lot of objective reasons why.
There's
that's
so much
useful.
exhaustion.
Well, once the mind starts to slow a little bit, you just don't know how you could have kept that up for so long. And people do it their whole lives and never realize it. But it just you realize that you were crazy before. Everybody calls you crazy now, but they're the ones that are still crazy, and you found your way out. Have you ever seen the YouTube video? They've got a couple of different versions called Plato's Cave Allegory.
No.
That's well worth looking up.
Have you seen the Thrive movement and all that? Thrive?
I've heard a lot of that stuff.
Plato's.
I tend to be suspicious of quite a few things because there's a lot of people that have part of the story. And
Plato's what?
Cave Allegory. And the gist of it is that
A-L-A-G?
Alegory.
E-E-G-O-R.
yeah.
O-R-Y.
The idea is in the cave allegory is Plato's thought was that truth is that which doesn't change, and everything outside us changes, so truth must be that which you find inside through contemplation. Aristotle, his student, took a completely opposite approach and said truth is that which can be completely described. But anyway, back to Plato, he likens people to being chained looking at a cave wall with fire burning behind.
Yeah.
And that they see the shadows as real reality, and then every once in a while someone will actually unchain themselves, turn around and look and see those shadows were produced by a fire, and realize the fallacy in the reality they thought was real before, and then they take it a step further and leave the cave and see everything outside the cave, and that's like full enlightenment when you walk out in the sun and the flowers and life and everything like that. And so it's interesting he came up with that somewhere around 400 BC.
Yeah.
Because it's a relatively accurate description of like how people chain themselves to watching these shadows. And you know, this person that leaves the cave, the moral of the story is he comes running back, oh, this is incredible, and they're saying, be quiet, we're like analyzing these shadows and you're disturbing us, and we don't care what you have to say, because it makes no sense. So once you have a broader perspective, finding ways to collapse that into the normal linear existence is what I like to call it, instead of a non-linear space, is extremely difficult, because nobody really wants to hear what you have to say, even though they're begging for the answers that you come with. And so it's
They can't relate. People can't relate.
no, there's no way
relate
to
at all.
You know, it's like if you're blind, how could I explain sight to you? Or even if you didn't see colors, how could I explain color? And so, I mean, that's part of the issue, and that's a lot of what Mariah and I have been discussing for the last year is how to communicate. And also, when you're in an awakened or enlightened space, how do you fit with the real world? You can't just say, oh yeah, I needed to contemplate today, so in fact, actually, today and the next couple of days, so I won't be into work. Or I can't get this project done because, well, I had this spiritual move, a spiritually guided movement to do something else. You know, they're going to say, well, no, you're supposed to do this for me. What are you talking about? So we've discovered recently that it's possible to have a completely awakened or enlightened existence. That they're not the same thing, but and still
be in the
function
world.
and be in the world. And that was an open question a year and a half ago.
Well, one can do both simultaneously, right?
Yes.
Be releasing and discharging and relaxing or whatever, and while we're
Right. Well, I always thought that awakening wasn't a very useful state of existence if all you could do is you're just driven to teach other people how to awake. Because then if everybody's doing that, it's going to be kind of a strange world because the roads are going to fall in disrepair or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I recognize that there had to be a way that is useful in everyday life, no matter how that life is structured. Like our society is structured different than societies were 500 years ago, and yet the experience should be just as valid then and now as then. And so it turns out it is. It's just there's no structures to really support it, and so you have a lot of transplanted Eastern traditions, a lot of New Age stuff. Some of it works okay. Most of it's like the partial story, so it gets somebody part of the way. But if you take that next step, then that structure doesn't know how to support you. Someone asked me, or not asked me, they asked one of my professors once. They said, "Well, if I want to get involved in some tradition that's designed to awaken me, what should I pick?" You know, there's all these different new formulas out, and the guy told the professor, he says, "Tried and true." He says, "If it's been around thousands of years, they've likely addressed a lot of the issues that people might have surrounding their tradition, and have a structure in place to support it." Because it's an extremely disruptive process too. It isn't, because all these attachments that we talk about,
There's tons
they are who you are.
There's tons and tons.
Yeah, and so when you can define yourself and you step into a space where you no longer have a self-definition, that self you could define before ceases to exist. It basically is a death.
Yeah.
And so presiding over your own death is relatively unpleasant for all the love and life there is in it. So
I'm finding like more and more, I just like there's no I that cares anymore about anything. You know?
Right.
There's no more. Someone could be hitting me or whatever, or raping my kids or whatever. And it's just, if there's no charge on anything, there's no charge on anything.
Right.
And it's just so exquisitely freeing.
Well, yeah, because its acceptance is complete at that point.
Yeah.
And so when that's true, then everything that happens has a purpose to it, and how you choose to act determines how things unfold from there. And so all of a sudden, even the smallest of details become critically important in your daily existence. So it makes everything more rich, more alive. And also, like, visually, the colors are brighter. I mean, everything is like that surreal brightness you might see in some religious depiction in a movie.
Like LSD.
Yeah, not quite like that, because hallucinations are maybe a part of the process as you're losing your mind, so to speak, but not.
I think
they
they specifically amplify.
Yeah, but it is an amplification
From resonance.
But yeah, if you want to talk to me sometime, talk about it.
Yeah.
Sometime.